Hey everyone, this is Gary Hill, otherwise known as GW Hill here. Kind of wanting to give an insight into the creation of the album Excursions, which has just recently been reissued. Um, the disc actually started out as this little independently produced cassette tape way, way back when. Well, technically speaking, it came out with the recording of some stuff, or it started with the recording of some songs that wound up on there. This thing was interesting because I put it out on my own label, and to the point where I actually printed the labels and the covers myself, glued them onto regular cassettes that I dubbed, and put them out in the stores for sale. That's been out of print for quite a while, but then a couple of years ago, I reissued it as a CD. That was on Lulu.com. Well, then last year, Lulu decided to stop doing CDs, so we went to CreateSpace, and the new version just came out. Kind of wanted to give you guys a little bit of insight into what happened to create some of these songs. I mean, overall, different songs were recorded at different points in time, different ways, but it all wound up making a whole story in the process. I didn't actually create them in the order that they are on the album, but we'll listen to them in that order and kind of give some insight. I mean, the whole story is as a concept album about a mission through space. And yeah, I'm a big sci-fi geek, so it makes sense that I would do a mission through space kind of thing. And the first song is called Earth, and I actually wrote it on a keyboard and then wrote it down on as sheet music and programmed it into an old Commodore 64 computer. The idea was that by doing it on the computer through the processor, it would give it sort of a synthetic feeling, kind of like, since it's called Earth, it's about the planet itself, and I wanted to give a feeling of there's a beauty there that man can sort of understand, but it's predates man. It's always going to be there, unchanging and permanent without really having man's touch. So the piece is just, like I said, it was just a piece created totally on Commodore 64 synthesizer. It's a cool little tune, but it just sort of sets the pace for the whole thing and opens it up. The next piece, Hyperdrive, represents the trip away from Earth, and that was recorded when I borrowed a friend's synthesizer, and I just liked the whole space engine, helicopter sort of sound, and so that was how I created it. It's, like I said, it's just basically designed to sort of showcase the journey through space represented to get to where we're going in this adventure. After that, we have Arrival, which just sort of represents coming down on a alien world. And it was, again, recorded on that same synthesizer that I had borrowed. And it's quite a cool little piece. Very ambient, very abstract in a lot of ways. It was designed to sound like an alien environment, and that's the whole purpose, particularly as it continues. The song that follows that one, though, is really the most bizarre, I think, in a lot of ways, in that I had bought a old used ukulele, and it only had 3 strings. I never wound up buying the 3rd string for it, or the 4th string for it. Wasn't 100% sure how to tune it, so I basically tuned it like a bass guitar, only a few octaves higher, and I just produced a little melody that I thought was very otherworldly, and it's called Earthrise. It's meant to represent seeing the Earth coming up like you would see the sun rising over the horizon. It's very, very much an atmospheric track, and it showcases in a lot of ways the production quality problems I had, because these were recorded in the 1980s on very primitive equipment. But I liked the performance enough that I decided to keep it. The next one is called Black Hole, Visit to a Weird Place, and I actually performed the whole thing on my bass guitar. Started off with it clean, then kicked in a dot overdrive preamp and turned on a bunch of reverb and just blasted the echo and the feedback through the stratosphere pretty much. It's designed to sound very otherworldly, and I think it does a good job of that. Like I say, it starts off with the bass really clean, but quickly shifts out to something else. When you, right about here is where it kicks in with the distortion and the feedback. And then I just sort of played with that for a while, creating a lot of waves of sound. Message Home was another, just on a classic synthesizer, and it was designed just to simulate the signals being sent back to Earth, revealing what was going on. Exploration is sort of much the same, just kind of exploring the new environment, all on a synthesizer. Magnetic Storm was on a different synthesizer, and it's supposed to be somewhat non-musical and jarring because it represents a magnetic storm in space. Saturn's Rings was a different synthesizer as well, and it's supposed to be majestic and beautiful, representing Saturn's Rings, of course. Now, the track that follows that is actually just the Black Hole track, but slowed down to half speed. It's called Visit to a Weird Place Revisited. And it's just a section of the piece, but it gives it a whole different flavor with it slowed way down. In some ways, Otherworld Intelligence is one of the weirdest tracks because I wanted to create a sort of image of communication from another life form, but it's alien, so we really can't understand it. So what I did was I used keyboards, and then I recorded multiple tracks of myself speaking and played them backwards and at varied speeds to come up with something that's both familiar and strange. Now, mind you, I don't even remember what I said at this point, but there was a lot of stuff there. And it was designed to sound very alien, and I think it does a pretty good job of that. Homeward Bound represents the journey back home, and it was recorded on that same original synthesizer as Hyperdrive and Arrival. And Aurora was on that same synthesizer. And it was just sort of something seen along the way. That was supposed to be more pretty, but also alien. And Visit Revisited was the same bass track, only this time instead of half speed, it's at quarter speed. So it becomes even more alien. Now, mind you, it's just a section out of that piece, but it really becomes very alien. Now, with Mission Report, what I did was create a piece of music that basically has pieces of the rest of the album on it. It was designed as basically the astronaut giving back his mission report and recounting everything that had happened along the journey. It's got little pieces of just about every other song on the album. Sort of a recap. The final track is called Home Again, and it takes the same theme and the same concept as Earth, but and in fact the beginning of it is exactly the same, but then there's music added at the end because it's supposed to represent how the planet is still the same, but somehow the perception of it has changed after the long journey. So that is a look inside the album. If you want to check it out, you can find it on CreateSpace under GW Hill Excursions. You can also find it on Amazon.com. At some point, there's going to be a MP3 release of it. I don't know if it's out there on Amazon yet or not. It might be. The last time I checked, they hadn't set it live yet. But I hope you enjoy it. Thank you.